Well, hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Friday in the Rib, and I
Our
guess
last
we're
show
gonna
of the year.
our last show of the year. We will see you next year, and actually we're gonna do a New Year's Day show, right?
Yes, we are.
So we will see you on New Year's Day, and so I guess we're going to show part two of the circus that was the. But let's begin by CJ. You told me you were already getting some things. Some of the tax bills have gone out and the people are irate.
The tax bills are
So
being delivered today.
welcome to the real world. And we hate to say we told you so, but we told you that this guy was going to tank the city. And
Yep.
I think you had a little. One of his defenders came out and said that's the cost of
Growth in the
we got
city. What growth?
nothing to show for it, but the response was very good. You can kind of paraphrase that response. So
Yeah, a woman responded and said, "That's what you get when you have a corrupt politician who spends money foolishly." I had to clean it up a little bit. So it makes for an interesting time. So when your tax bills come out today, because you should get them today, because I doubt you'll get them over the weekend, just remember, you heard it here first. And we don't like being right because I'll tell you right now, the escrow on my account on my mortgage is based upon what it costs me for taxes each year, and that prognostication, that prediction is made in October based upon the numbers the city provides in October. The numbers change in January. So last year, if it wasn't for the fact that I was paying an extra $135 a month on my mortgage, I would have owed them money. But instead, the bank owed me $6. So I went out and got two coffees.
well, listen, we got to remember that because Paul wanted to get real, we told the people that last year's tax bill was uh, padded because he put in APA money.
Right.
So now you're going to get the real one, and this is only the beginning. Because remember, we don't have Diamond. They've still got some APA funds to use. So this is only the beginning of a ride to oblivion for the city. And it's good that these things came out in a way because it puts in context why this retirement board meeting got so contentious because in spite of the fact that Paulie Pockets continued to say the city was flush, he was lying through his teeth. And now you're seeing that they're clawing for every penny they can get, where $500,000 to them is so bad they're going to turn the retirement board into another funding source like they did from '02 to 12. And this is why it's going to remain contentious until the vote is taken. And if they prevail, they will have won and screwed the city and the retirees again. So with that, well, thank you, Jeff. And I hope happy 24 to you, and we made it through 23. So with that, I'll turn it back.
Yeah, well, remember, New Year's Eve this year is 1 2 3 1 2 3. So it's going to be interesting. It's this is the last time you'll see 1 2 3 1 2 3. That's for sure. So with that, I think we are going to break out to the part two of the retirement board meeting, and we shall definitely talk about it a little more after the end.
So that motion would be to basically revisit the schedule from a discussion. Does it include a vote as well, or is it something we could also look to table this to get more time come up with additional information.
So,
I'm not seeing a lot of additional
right, so
information.
as it stands now, the board voted to
Yeah.
adopt a particular funding schedule.
Yeah.
Right, so the only issue on the table right now is do you as a body wish to reconsider that vote? If you wish to reconsider that vote, you first procedurally have to have a motion to reconsider, which then must pass. So, from what I understand, Mr. Kamara, Mr. Machado, and the chair voted in favor of the funding schedule that was adopted.
Correct.
So one of you three need to make a motion, if you're so inclined. You're not required to do this, it's if you personally want to reconsider the vote, then one of you needs to make a motion to reconsider. Anyone can second that motion. Then there can be a discussion on the motion and then a vote. If the vote is to reconsider, after that, you don't have to take a vote today on further action. It simply means that the matter is back on the table. Ultimately, you can re-vote to do exactly what you did the last time, if that is the end result of your further deliberation. But right now, we're only in a procedural posture of whether or not there's even any need for further discussion on the reconsideration.
Do I hear a motion from either of the two?
For me, Mr. Chairman.
Not for me.
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
I'll second.
Yeah, first and
Would this
second.
be a roll call or just a regular? Just regular vote?
Regular
Okay,
vote in
okay.
open session, but you can now, if you wish to discuss the motion,
Oh, we gotta vote, right?
We gotta vote on, no, we can discuss the motion.
discuss it before you vote on the motion.
You gotta vote on the motion to reconsider.
Well, no,
You gotta discuss the motion.
yes.
Well, you got to discuss it, but you
Right.
gotta vote on it.
Now that,
Yeah.
right, but now that the motion's been made and seconded, now there can be discussion on the motion before the vote is taken. So if anyone else wants to speak on the motion, you certainly can do that.
In my point, just to, I really wanna allow some time to get additional, if there's additional facts, considerations, information we need to take into effect. I'm okay with that. And this is strictly reconsideration. It does not mean that the vote will change and guarantee a change in the vote. But in being sensitive to time and if there's additional information, whether it comes from the state or from the city or both, we'll look at it, but I'm not looking to change a vote that was done right now.
So,
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I think I was coming from PAIR-Act or whatever, I understand. I've accompanied people from PAIR-Act to sit before this board and before the city council in discussing this appropriation from nearly my entire 20 years that I served here. I said at the time of the vote, going forward, I'd be willing to entertain something maybe going forward. But I think it is too early in the game for a system that just had, several years ago, had 44 cents, and now, thankfully, we have 50 cents for every dollar that we owe, to be looking on reneging on payments. Again, the change in this, what we voted, is about $500,000. There's nothing that says that if something changes in the future, this board isn't willing to revisit this. But I think this is a short-term fix for this administration to take care of their business now. And quite frankly, I'll be honest, my years in this business, the politician today doesn't care about what the consequence is 6 or 8 or 10 years, because it's no longer their consequence. So again, I'm being consistent. I think it is imperative we stay the course. It's like buying a house and the second month you don't make a payment. It's like, why would I do it? Let's see what we can do going forward to make this work. But I think that appropriation compared to what my colleagues would like to change it to is insignificant. And I'll say it like I said the last meeting. If $500,000 is the difference between the city's solvency and insolvency, I think people need to get to a podium and tell the people of Fall River what the situation is and the financial condition of the city.
One other point on that, we talked about this year's schedules in, we're talking about next year. Jim just said that the governor said it's not gonna happen. There's no reason to deal with this thing right now. And that's the key point. The fact is, everybody's forgetting, we're talking about what happened last month, and last month we said we were gonna look at it down the road. But everybody's forgetting it earlier, I don't know how many months ago, we discussed changing the date that we were gonna fund this system and doing a lot of other things that we were amenable to when we were discussing raising the COLA base up to 14,000. So it's not that we're saying we won't do this. All we're saying is, right now, as Jimmy said, we have been, we were at the bottom of the barrel. In that letter that I wrote then, I said, we had gone from above the middle to the third worst in the state because of doing stuff like this, not getting the maximum amount for our fiduciary responsibility to this system. And this is a key to the point. And the point is that we're locked in for this year anyway. We can sit down at any point in time and discuss anything we want. If the city, if there's some kind of catastrophic movement that creates such, as Jimmy said, and I agree with Jimmy, if $500,000 is gonna be the difference between this city going bankrupt and not, I got an issue, because I got the figures right here. This last fiscal year, we made $4,577,966 as a reimbursement for the help, just for the health care. And we're on target to make more than that this year, because we are running 83% under budget. I asked numerous times to the council and stuff, where did that money go? We never got an answer. So there's money around, and like I said, as Jimmy said, to me, this is much to do about nothing.
Can I talk, please?
Yes.
So I like to, first of all, it's about 600,000 the first year. We can't use the health insurance money, as you know, so we can't bring that into the general fund. And second of all, this funding cycle was presented by PERAC, who none of us sitting at this table are actuarians, and they would have not presented it because they're a very conservative organization. They would have not presented it if they did not feel comfortable with it. And second of all, by year 3, it's over $2 million in a cash flow difference. Everybody knows that we have Diamond coming on that the city has to fund. And there's numerous issues. The governor may have said that has no intentions of cutting funding mid-year. Her saying she has no intention doesn't mean it won't happen. Second of all, we do not know what next year's aid will be. So I think it's this board's fiduciary responsibility to say, if PERAC is comfortable with both alternatives, and also knowing what this entire city is responsible for, and the mayor did also bring to the council for a vote to give the retirees the extra boost that.
That's a 1-year boost.
A 1-year boost.
That's right.
So he did, and that added a significant amount to the unfunded liability.
Just to interject, they do use healthcare money. Because number one, in 22 you got 3.3 million. In 21 you got 6.5 million. I sat in the city council
And it
chamber.
went to net school spending, and I don't agree. Again, I don't agree with that.
Let me finish this. I sat in the council chamber, and I can get the video of the city administrator at the time, Kathy Ann Viveris, when she was questioned on how much was in the city's healthcare fund. We had $9 million in ours. You're supposed to have three times as much, because you know what the ratio is. It's 3-to-1 ratio.
I'm not
75.
disagreeing with you,
And
I
she
was
said
not
you
one
had
that did that.
$500,000 in that. So the city routinely, because you're a self-insurer, you know that. This is not a premium plan.
Has
You're
that
a
happened under
self-insurer.
Has that happened since I've been the CFO?
I don't know.
It has not, because I don't support that, and you can ask the mayor that.
But
So what I'm trying to say to you is that I think that this entire board has a responsibility.
we don't have a
Enroll.
responsibility to subsidize the city
not
and its
subsidizing.
fiscal spending.
Parag
That's-
would've-
We have a responsibility to this board. We're getting
Yeah.
50 cents on a dollar now. It's our job to try to get up to $1 for a dollar.
So you know
And
more
there's
than
two options
Parag.
to do that,
Yeah.
because they present
But it
it.
gives you
So
more
your
money.
issue is with
Okay,
Parag.
I'll tell you what.
That's the
You
issue
wanna
here.
agree-
That's the
You
issue.
wanna agree to pay on time? You know
That's
how
the
much
issue.
money you saved for
Jimmy
the
made a
last
point
15
about
years
paying a
not paying
mortgage.
on time?
So there's two options. One pays the mortgage off a little earlier than the other, but they both pay the mortgage off.
I'll ask the
So
director,
there's
how
two
much
options
money
here.
has the city made by keeping their money and paying late all the time? How many
That's not the
city
point. That's
employees-
not why
Well,
we're
that is
here
the
right now.
point.
No, we're here
That
for
is
the
the
two
point.
choices to discuss.
You guys
it.
have
That's
been
it.
late on
You're
your
bringing
bills
up
all
all
the
kinds
time.
of stuff that has
As
no
a
bearing on this
fiduciary,
right
would
here.
you tell, would you
As a
tell
fiduciary,
somebody-
I'm looking at
as a
two options.
fiduciary, would you tell your mind to invest in somebody
Looking
that
at
never
two
pays
options
on
here.
time?
You're all over the place.
No, you
There's two- there's
just
two
wanna
options.
focus on one little tree.
'Cause that's what
Let's
we're
look
here
at the
for.
forest.
That's what we're here for.
Our forest
No.
is all the retirees,
Yep.
and you don't care about it.
I don't?
No, you don't.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you don't.
Then if, okay.
Because
No, I'll agree with you. I don't care.
One
It's on record.
CFO called us liabilities.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Call to
And you
order
remember
again,
that
please.
too, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
please
Keep
call the
quiet, keep
meeting to
pension.
order.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah, and I earned it.
Yeah.
38 years on a line, not sitting in an office on my ass.
That's right. So
Watch your step.
with that.
Yeah, no, you
um,
watch. You
let's-
watch.
Yeah, okay.
Listen, again,
Okay.
Yeah, well, it got a. You're muted, CJ. CJ, you're muted.
9 C cuts, right? Our state delegation is claiming we have a surplus in cash. So why would they go for 9 C cuts with the surplus in cash? As a matter of fact, we have such a surplus in cash, we can spend 2 million, billion, whatever it is, to house illegal aliens. So we're going to spend that money there and not support our cities and towns, which is taking on these illegals? Maura Healey really has to look at herself if that's what she believes. If she believes she's going to be able to do that, because that's not the way it works.
Well, okay, let me say at the beginning, they were talking about the motion to reconsider, and you're right, CJ, this horse manure, this horse manure about 9 C cuts, we know that that's bullshit, but the thing is, they're talking about what could be, what might be, as a reason for them to get more money for them. And they're full of crap. Those, they're saying my problem is with Parag. I don't have a problem with Parag. They always we requested 2 different funding schedules because the city's always whining. You notice he never denied that they paid late. And I'm going to have those numbers at the next meeting. He never denied it. And then he got a little froggy when I said you're sitting on your ass because he disrespected me. Because he said, in other words, just shut up and collect your retirement. He shows his disdain for people who work for this city. You notice he admitted that he doesn't give a shit about the retirees. Okay, I agree with you. Because it's true. It's true. The disdain in his voice and the sarcasm for me is a reflection of how he feels about all retirees. Just like Mary Sahadi, we're nothing more than liabilities. He works in a private sector. Then he's going to accuse me later on of being, he's saying, I got my problems at Parag. No, Parag did exactly what we requested. They sent down 2 schedules, 2 funding schedules. And I'm going to tell them already what I'm going to say at the next meeting. She said, oh, it's viable. It's not viable. We have a choice of 2 schedules. The schedule we chose will give this retirement system $500,000 more to put into our investment portfolio to try to get more money to fund the system. If we take the second one, that bullshit about, well, you take a longer mortgage, it just takes longer to pay off. And you pay a hell of a lot more, don't you? Don't you, Mr. Nassif? You're a fiduciary that tells your clients to pay more interest if you can with that option when you don't have to? You're a fiduciary? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, this is the choice we have. We can pick the plan we voted for, get $500,000 in our system that we're there to be fiduciaries for, and begin to and continue to move a little up in this place where you don't get a lot of interest right now, or the second system where they keep the 500,000, piss it in a hole, and on the back end where they were complaining already about what's going to happen from 2029 to 2035, they can't afford what's happening because of all the pay raises and stuff they did. It's going to be even higher. This guy is supposed to work in finance. So you explain to me, and I'm going to say this at the next meeting, you explain to me that you can't figure out that it's worse to pay just the interest on your credit card and let your debt continue to increase and pay more interest, or pay $1 more than you have to instead of trying to pay the thing. You're going to pay more interest. And I'm going to bring the numbers to the next meeting of how much more it's going to cost for the last 6 years. So we got a choice of putting $500,000 in our system and having less money to pay, even though it's a lot more. And we already said we'd have to address that grudgingly because they created this problem. But we were going to address this. But they're fighting for this 1 year because they're so freaking broke. And they won't admit it. I'll tell you what. The next meeting, just say it. We're broke. We spent too much. Just say it, and maybe you can swing somebody else's vote. But I'll tell you what, the Bruins will play a Stanley Cup game in hell before I vote to give this city back money on the front end of a contract and get on the front, to give them money on the front end and give the system less money, and also at the back end pay more money. He's not going to be around. He doesn't pay into the system. He doesn't give a shit. He never gave a shit. And he's going to accuse me of being political? No, he can accuse me, but there's only one individual on that board who is politically appointed. That is Mr. Nassif. He's appointed by the mayor. 3 members. The chairman is elected by the board. The other 2 members, Jimmy Machado and I, are elected by the members of the retirement system. And the other individual that represents the city is there in an ex officio capacity. The statute says it's supposed to be the city auditor. And since we haven't had a city auditor in a while, it has to be someone from the financial arm of the city. So Bridget is there due to her ex officio capacity. She was not appointed to the board. So there's only one political appointee on that board. So before you start accusing everybody else of being political, remind yourself that you're the only person that got there through politics. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, CJ.
You know, what really gets me is a few years back, we had problems with mortgages being foreclosed upon. I'm sure you remember that. And what the banks started doing to prevent the foreclosures was they were doing forbearances. Okay? They were modifying mortgages so that you made basically interest payments plus a little extra towards the principal. But it resulted in, at the end of the mortgage, you had a huge balloon payment. A huge balloon payment. Now, if the city can't afford $500,000 now, how are they going to afford a huge balloon payment in 5 years or 10 years? This is where we get the problem. They kick the can down the road and they don't want to address it. This needs to be addressed today. Okay? And as for people talking about politics, guess what? We've gone on record that when they do good, we give them compliments. When they do bad, we tear them apart. It just seems that they do bad more often than they do any good. And that's what makes it worse. We can't make this stuff up. And it's a shame that we have to have these videos present to justify what we're saying. That we have to prove what we're saying. And it's a shame that Chip, you have to go to these meetings with a stack of papers yay high to prove your position. And even when you prove your position, you get people who are politically involved turn around and say you're wrong. We get that from the city council. We get that from the school committee. We get that from the retirement board. We get that from the planning board. We get that from the zoning board of appeals. We get it from everywhere. You're wrong. That's why we got all this market rate housing going up with no parking. Where are these people going to park? There's no parking on the streets as it is. But we're going to build market rate housing, and the zoning board of appeals is going to keep granting waivers so that there's no parking. And you can thank your zoning board of appeals for not having parking. And you can thank this administration, you can thank Paul Coogan when you don't have any parking, because he's the one that's created this mess. And he's created the mess especially with the retirement board. 50 cents on the dollar? How the hell can you pay your benefits at 50 cents on the dollar?
Yeah,
That's what gets me.
And they put us there. And listen, they look at, you're right. I went there with a stack of papers, but they never, ever refuted what I said. They never said what I said was wrong. They just said that they don't care. Just like when they say everybody hates Fall River, when they say we got crime or we got an underperforming educational system, they ignore it. It's like, I don't care. It's just because people don't like Fall River. Now they're going to blame me for what they did. All I did, they ignored the court cases that talked about fiduciary responsibility. Listen, CJ, you didn't have to be, you figured it out. Why? Because you have a mortgage. You know what happens if you take, if you take a 100-year car payment, instead of paying $3,000 in interest, you're going to pay $3 million in interest. They can't afford, right now, they can't afford the balloon payments at the end of this funding in 2035. We already said that we're going to have to make accommodations because they've already overspent. So their position is, we want to overspend more. Give us more money. Give us $500,000 this year, and then next year we'll come in and try to take the lower funding schedule, and we're going to do it from now till 29, and in 29 we're going to go, we have to go kick the can down the road and fund this thing to 45. So who's going to pay the interest? Hey, guess what? The active employees that are playing into the retirement system, they don't get to pay late. You notice they never denied that they pay late. They don't want to hear how much it's cost the retirement system. They don't want to hear the fact that I got numbers that from 02 to 12, they put $89 billion in less than they should have, and we went from the top of the pack. And I said it right there. We went from above middle to the third worst in the state. Now we're clawing our way back, and they want to put us right back to where we started from. And that is to them being fiduciarily responsible. Well, I disagree. But I can tell you, this is the last time that he's going to make personal comments about shut up and just have your retirement, because the next time there's going to be some serious issues, and at the next meeting I'm going to address that. He's not going to tell me who I got a problem with. He's not going to tell me my problems at PERAC. It isn't. PERAC gave us what we asked for, 2 funding schedules. It's up to us as a board to pick the schedule. And we voted for the schedule that would do the best financially for the system. They want something that's not the best avenue. So, and they're doing it because they're broke and they represent the city. And now they're gonna try to swing that one vote. So this is the whole thing. You're seeing it. I'm glad it's on video. We're gonna videotape the next meeting too. And it's gonna get, it shouldn't get froggy. We've discussed this thing to death. This is real simple. As he tried to say, I'm all over the place. No, it's not. I'm all over the place because you got to look at the whole, how we got here. That's their con. Look at this little branch. It's just an option, a viable. It's not viable. You think, could you run your house that way? CJ, could you keep kicking the can down the road till you got no more money? No.
Nope.
Only the government does that crap. The government lets them kick the can down the road. Kick the can down the road. And you know what's going to happen in this state? They're going to do the same thing that they always do. Help the cities and towns screw the taxpayers and their retirees. This system, see, this is the problem. This guy knows nothing. He's from private industry. He knows nothing about the city budget. He knows nothing. He's in here just to do what his boss told him, the guy who appointed him. He knows nothing about the system. Then he's going to say, oh, you got something against this administration. Yeah, listen, I got something about every administration that misappropriates money. But that's not what we were there for. We're there to vote for the funding schedule. Look, I'm not going to hide my record. I sued this city and got a forensic audit in 1991, and we won, and we found criminal malfeasance. And they had to pay us, like I said, they had to pay us back in payments because they blew the $2 million that they robbed. They said they just didn't know it was there. It wasn't theirs, but they robbed it because the law says it's supposed to go directly into our account. But they don't care. See, they don't care. They want to hear it. They don't want it. But I've been fighting this. 91 I filed it. 208 they did it. 2016 they lost more money. They found 4 other insurance accounts that were dormant for 25 years. You don't think that contributed to the situation we're in? But they don't want to hear it. They're typical politicians. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Just let us, give us the money and shut up because you're all over the place. No, you people are all over the place. If you don't know how you got there, you can't make a reasonable decision. In his decision, he can say anything he wants, but it's not reasonable because we're going to be paying more on the front end, in the middle, and a lot more on the back end. And like you said, CJ, you could figure that out. You saw what happened to mortgages. You saw what happens when you defer payments. Everybody knows that if you finance a car for 72 months or 100 years, you're going to end up buying that car 4 times over. It's always better to pay quickly, especially when you're looking at massive interest rates. But we got the double whammy here. It's not only the interest we're going to pay, it's the damage to the system. Because we can't make money without money in our investment portfolio. And every time they get the lower amount to pay in rather than their fair share, because every employee doesn't get a choice. They don't get to say, well, I'm having a tough time with inflation. I'm having a tough time with my mortgage now because, this economy sucks. Interest rates are through the roof. I can't afford to remortgage my house. I got to do a roof. I got to do this. You know what they tell them? Shut up. We're taking it out of your pay. 100% of what you're supposed to pay, you're going to pay the full amount and on time. And this city doesn't do that. But it's our fault. It's my fault. So that's the way it is. And you're going to see more. And like I said, now you know, when you open those tax bills, this is just one of the pieces that's causing those bills to go through the ceiling. And as CJ said, there are a lot of other factors, not just the tree, not just the branch, not just the leaf. the whole forest. It's about lack of spending control. And like that woman who responded to that Cooganite saying, it's just uncontrollable spending. They spent money like drunken sailors. He took opera money, didn't use one dime of it that will help us prospectively, and now we're suffering the consequences. And I look, so it's going to be, you know, let's see what happens at the next meeting. I'm really looking forward to it because, you know, as you can see, it's going to be pretty funny because we have, you know, we have two sides that are never going to agree. I've been at a bargaining table many times, and I also went twice to the JLMC because we couldn't settle with the city. This argument is not going to be settled except by the chairman, who is an elected member, elected by the board, and he was the swing vote. No matter how long we talk about this, it's going to be 2-2. The city's going to want more money so they can piss it in a hole, and Jimmy and I are going to want the money to go to the retirement system. And it's not that we're unreasonable, because we've already said, in spite of the fact that we didn't cause the problem, we know that later on, when, like you said, when there's a balloon payment at the end, we're not talking about 500,000. We're talking about millions on the back end. And it's a self-inflicted wound by the city. They created this problem. Again. So this is a battle that will never be ever settled. You know, it's something that's not, you know, this is the frustrations that we feel, because I go in there and I know, look, we're never going to come to a reasonable agreement, because every year we face this, that the city wants to keep more of their money and not pay into the system, and then complain because the system's not funded. Because they're always complaining, oh, the retirement system's breaking our back. Well, you created it, you morons. So this is the thing. No matter how long we talk about this, and I don't care if they want to discuss this for the next 6 months, I'll be fighting about it, but we're going to take a vote, hopefully at the next meeting. And then if they screwed the city, you will know that, again, the city got away with pissing money in a hole, spending money without regard for the impact of spending like a drunken sailor. So they'll win again because they put political leverage on people. And, you know, I know that the two elected by the people in the system know that we're fighting for the system. So we'll see what happens, and I'm glad finally that we got it taped again, because they used to tape all the meetings, and I think they stopped doing it because of stuff like this. They didn't want stuff like this to be memorialized, but it is going to be. So with that, CJ, back to you.
It's very interesting to see how this is going. And I think one of the reasons why people saw a huge uptick in their tax bill is because of the debt exclusion, because the mayor has admitted or has claimed that he has funded part of the debt exclusion with ARPA money. But that money's gone now. So now you're paying the full debt exclusion, which the city has been unwilling to show on the tax bills, how much it actually is. And there's allegations that the administration has added $1.6 million to the debt exclusion, which means we're paying more money than we're supposed to. Does that surprise you? Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all. Well, it never gets boring here in Fall River. I'll tell you right now. I want to thank you all for watching. Remember, have a very happy and safe New Year's, and take care of yourself and your families. Happy New Year, and we'll see you on Monday. And we will see you on Monday. Thank you.